Professional organizer Carly Adams is joining me on our episode today. She's the owner of Tidy Revival in Sacramento, California, and has been a student of the Inspired Organizer program for quite some time and is now serving as one of our official mentors inside of our community. Today, we're chatting about her business story and about her experiences networking with influencers. So if you love using social media to market your business, or even if you're new to the game, this episode should give you some fresh ideas on how to collaborate with influencers locally to spread awareness and continue scaling your organizing business.
You're listening to the Pro Organizer Studio podcast with Jen Obermeyer. Thank you for joining in. Jen makes it her mission to broaden the horizons of savvy businesswomen in the organizing industry by instilling confidence and inspiring authenticity. She is a devoted business coach and founder of the Inspired Organizer program. You'll gain new insight into strategies designed specifically for professional organizers. And now, let's get started.
Hey, Carly, I'm so happy that you're here on the podcast with me.
Thank you so much for having me, Jen.
Yeah. So, okay, Carly, please, let me just let you do your introduction. So you're out in California. I'm in South Carolina. We've never met in person, but I totally feel like I know you. So will you just introduce yourself to the Pro Organizer Studio podcast?
Sure. So my name is Carly Adams, and I'm the owner of Tidy Revival. I'm located out here in Sacramento, California, and I've been in business since November 2017. And I've been in Pro Organizer Studio since I knew about you for a long time, but I started Inspired Organizer March 2018.
Awesome. Okay. So let me ask just first question first, because I always find this interesting. What was it that brought you to the idea of even becoming a professional organizer?
That's a great
Do you remember
question.
finding out about it?
You know what's funny is once I started really getting into it, I realized that I had looked into it, like a year and a half, 2 years before I even got started, and forgot that I looked into it. But when I started looking into it the first time, I was living in San Francisco. I was working as an executive assistant, and I love the idea of having my own business, but to be perfectly honest, it wasn't feasible at the time. So I knew that when we moved to Sacramento, I wanted to start something for myself, be my own boss, and I love helping people. The things that made me love being an executive assistant were thinking on my feet and coming up with solutions quickly and making things run smoothly for the department heads and my bosses and everybody, underneath them. And so I knew that I wanted to bring those problem-solving skills to whatever I did, but professional organizing seemed like a natural fit because I can be helping, women and families and still having my own business and setting up my own time boundaries, working out of my home. And so it just seemed like a really good fit. But when we moved, that's when it really accelerated the process and allowed me to start thinking super seriously about what that would look like.
That's so awesome. So I know you said that you had been using your organizing skills in previous jobs and everything, but were you always the super organized kid, or did that kind of come later in your life?
That came so much later. And I talk about this on my website. There's a page called the TR Story. And basically my journey with organization started as a financial journey. I used to be deeply in debt. I used to have a lot of anxiety when I was opening my bills because I didn't know where I was financially. I didn't know how much money was in my bank account. I was always scared to look, and I was just unorganized to the max in probably every sense of the word. And even in college, it wasn't until the very, very end of college that I was even feeling confident about, planning my week, which is so necessary when you're in school to figure out, when your deadlines are and work backwards from there. And that was never my forte. And I always felt like something was missing. I just didn't get it. I felt a little bit behind the curve. So outside of school, starting my career, and I was working in sales when I first got out of college. And it was, the job that I had at the time was just a really bad fit for me. But during that time, I started really getting into, my finances and starting to figure out how to reduce my debt. And then that just like, once I started getting organized in that realm of my life, everything clicked. And I figured I found so much peace from that process and just found that my life was running so much more smoothly that I decided to start simplifying all these other areas of my life too, and figuring out these like very like easy solutions that just clicked into place. My whole life just became so much easier overall that later on, when I was thinking about what to do, I'm like, this is it, because I want to help bring that simplicity to other people's homes.
That's really amazing. So first of all, I love that you said you have the TR story, the Tidy Revival story on your website, because I know that just even hearing that and hearing that you have been there before is like a huge thing that resonates with a lot of people, right? So they don't feel like you're just this perfectly organized person that has just never suffered a day in your life. So I think that's incredible that you share that, so that people know that you've been there.
Mm-hmm.
And I also love that you said that it kind of started in one area and then it trickled or spread out to the rest of like your home and your life.
Yeah. Thank you.
Was that a quick process for you, or was it kind of like over time?
Oh, it was so slow. And I'm always telling my clients, or I talk about it in my newsletter a lot. I'm like, it's all about baby steps. I know I talked about it being a financial journey, and someone that I follow a lot is Dave Ramsey, and he's always talking about his baby steps. And I feel like that's all that progress is just a series of baby steps that send you towards the direction that you want to go. And I tell this to, clients all the time. I talk about it a lot. It's really all about taking those teeny tiny steps in the right direction, that when you look back over time, you're going to see how far you've come. But things don't need to feel like a leap. It can just feel like a little bit in the right direction constantly.
I really love that.
Oh, thanks.
So let me just segue right into it. I want to hear more about like the process of like your business. I know you said you started back in 2017 and now we're recording. It's like the very beginning of 2020. And I know that you've come a long way since you started, and that it was also kind of like a baby stepping process in your business as well. So will you share more about that?
Yeah. I know that I shared with you that I just went full-time as of last month. So that's
congratulations.
Thank you so much. And when we moved to SAC and I knew I was starting a business, instead of getting another full-time job, I got 2 part-time jobs. And my goal with that was to be able to have these part-time jobs that I knew would be probably easier to refill my position when I decided to leave. And then also I could grow my business, and then when I was ready, I could leave one of the jobs. So I'd still have some part-time income, then grow the business more and leave the second one. And what ended up happening was just that, and it took a lot of time. I had 2 part-time jobs. I left the one that was more hours, started building up Tidy Revival even more. And then in the last year that I was working part-time, I ended up switching part-time jobs to a different organization that I know we're going to talk about a little bit more, but it was essentially an organization in Sacramento for content creators called the Blog Bloc, which was amazing. And that was great because I was already tapped into this creative community and was working a lot with the different members in that group. And then the Blog Bloc actually just finished operations and the founders switching gears. So I knew that that was ending, and I decided to take that opportunity to just go full-time in my business and not look for a different part-time job.
That's so awesome. So it's been, like you said, like a slow baby stepping journey, not all at once, like a big leap. I feel like a lot of people have that misconception that it's like, it has to be all or nothing. Like it can't, like you did, like you had the multiple side hustles. You didn't want to like put yourself out there on a limb like right away, especially moving to a new area.
And I think, and I know you've talked about this a lot too, but growing your business takes time, and you have to, I think even 2 years ago, I couldn't have imagined what it would look like now and how many people that I would be following up with on the back end constantly, and having that built up, that's the thing that really takes time. So that I don't feel, nervous if, about like sales coming in. I'm like, it's going to be fine. Yeah. You've got, new business coming in all the time. You have new clients wrapping all the time. You're following up with old clients again. And so just really that business side of things, building up the back end. I'm really glad that I took the time that I did to build this up, because it didn't feel like a jump. It just felt like a little segue. And again, to plug Dave Ramsey again, they have an offshoot of that brand called Business Boutique, and Christy Wright, who runs that, talks about that a lot, about kind of just having a little hop, skip, and a jump into full-time instead of launching your business from nothing and hoping that it works out.
Yes, totally. And I know there's so many ladies in our audience who are of that same exact mindset that, they are not in any way going to like take this huge risk until they have taken it step by step and shown themselves that it will be okay. Like, I feel like there are a lot of people out there who are more like natural risk takers. Mm-hmm. So what would you say to someone who is more like you, who like they want to go slower, transition slowly, not make any huge leap like this year, into a full-time business, but they know in the back of their head that like one day they want to be like where you are now? Like, what would your biggest piece of advice be for them?
I would be to just set yourself up, think long-term, and set yourself up in a way that you can take that leap later. So for instance, like I have a friend who has a full-time job and she's an organizer, and she's thinking about, she wants to grow her business, and she's having those conversations with her supervisors about reducing her hours from full-time to part-time, even if it goes down to like 30 hours a week, just thinking about different ways that you can transition your life instead of having to go from a 40-hour a week full-time job with your benefits into, now you're working full-time for yourself. Think about ways that you can make that transition slowly to kind of ease it on your end, because you're totally right. I'm definitely not I think I was more in my youth, but now I'm not a risk taker. I'm like more of a calculated strategist and playing a safe.
Yes.
And
sounds like it.
So it's not as exciting, but I've found that it works.
And to that point, everyone listening, Carly's way is the way that I recommend. I mean, I've been that other person, and yes, very exciting, but the highs are very high, the lows are very low. And I know there's a lot of ladies out there who are like, okay, they're in a job that they don't love, and usually I think when people kind of have that like that moment where they just completely like throw in the towel with the full-time job and they're like, I'm going all in, it can come from a place of like just total frustration and overwhelm with their workplace, and not necessarily because they are really truly ready to take on all the responsibilities of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
However, I know some people are of that mindset that they're just like, if I go all in, I'm going to give it my all, and that's what's going to give it the momentum to keep going. So I know there's plenty of success stories on both sides.
Oh yeah.
But I love hearing yours, because I think yours is a good one.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Jen.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back and talk about, so you got connected in Sacramento with these content creator blogger, like tell us more about like who was in that group, like what attracted you to them, and like what were you focused on at that time that kind of like brought you into that circle?
Yeah. So it's funny, and I've told the founder this a lot. It's kind of a joke. When I first moved to Sacramento, multiple friends who either used to live here or have been here for a long time. I have 2 siblings here, so they were already tapped into a lot of communities. Everyone was like, you have to join the Blog Bloc. You're growing your business, you have to join the Blog Bloc. And I was like, I'm not a blogger, guys. This is not my community. This is not for me. And they're like, no, you have to. And when people tell me like, you have to, I'm always like, ugh, no, I don't.
No.
Exactly. But then finally I broke down and I was like, all right, I'll go see what this blogging group is all about, I guess. And as soon as I went, I realized that it took one meeting and I didn't know anyone. So I was all by myself. I was feeling really self-conscious and, and I was just kind of in the corner. And it's funny, like you see photographs from that meeting and they have this one of the audience and everyone is like very cute in their seats. And I have heads down and I'm just like in a notebook, just like furiously taking notes, like not cute at all. But what I realized from that first meeting is that it's all about helping people learn how to promote themselves better and spend their time wisely on the internet. And when you're promoting, whether it's a blog or a business, if you've decided to take a route where you're really digging deep into SEO optimization, self-promotion through marketing on social media, any of those types of topics pertain to small business owners as much as they do bloggers, because you're having to put yourself out there. And with content creation, whether you're talking about photographs, collaborations, poses, photography with iPhone, anything in that realm also pertains to small business owners. And so I went in, I was like, oh, okay, actually, everyone that told me I needed to do this was 100% right. I was a brat and was resistant for way too long, and I should have been doing this the whole time. This group is amazing. And I just saw such an immense value from it. So that was July 2018. And when I think I went to my first meeting, and then at the very end of the year, in 2018, it turned out that there was an opportunity to do admin work with them. So that was the group that I switched my part-time job for. And in 2019, I was working with them just part-time, is like 10 hours a week. So 75% of my time was on my business and a quarter of my time was on the Blog Bloc. But yeah, it was really great to be able to learn the back end of membership and assist with social media and with the back end of putting together all the events, because they did monthly meetups. And it was a great opportunity the whole time to collaborate with different members in the group. And you're talking, I just realized I never answered your question, like who's in the group, but it's a lot of
that's okay.
bloggers, small business owners, photographers, people, just anybody who's really into content creation. Some people didn't even have like blogs. Maybe they just had an Instagram account that was they kind of used as like a baby blog, like a mini blog, and they were creating content just for that. And I also got to be part of the back end of influencer campaigns locally. So partnering with different businesses, whether that was like, we did a collaboration with our partnership with the Railroad Museum locally, a winery locally, and just different things of that nature. And the back end of, influencer selection, figuring out stats, rates, payment, putting together the spec sheets so that people know what to post, when to post, keeping track of deadlines. So it was really interesting and a lot of fun. And it was a great opportunity to be a part of, some of those campaigns as well.
Okay, I have so many questions that just came out of what you just shared. First of all, what an amazing opportunity to be involved in a local, like a local organization that is, using influencer and bloggers as, marketing campaigns, which is very, probably beyond the scope of what we're talking about today, but influencer marketing being like kind of the wave of the future. It's like, you see things on the internet, you see it on Instagram, and it's like, well, that was very intentional on the part of like the brands that the Instagrammers are working with and what have you. So, all right. So here's my first question. First question is, for you personally, like as you were working and seeing what different people were doing to build their businesses, what ideas for you personally came out of that time where you were like, I'm going to take this? Because I know you said you're furiously writing in your notebook, very first meeting.
Yeah.
What ideas really came out of that for you said, okay, before I wasn't a blogger, but now I see how this applies to me as a small business owner. And so now from now on, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Like, what things did you commit to because of your time working with them for your business?
Yeah, I think the biggest things to come out of it were collaborations and partnerships with other members. And I would always tell new people, much like the private Facebook group for Inspired Organizer is like, I mean, the course is amazing and I've done the whole thing and I love it and I speak highly of it and I tell other people, like, if you want to take your business to the next level, do Inspired Organizer and you will have the framework that you need to get started. Like, much like that, the Facebook group is like this whole other amazing thing that I would pay the fee again just to be a part of that group because it's just such an amazing resource. And so in that way, I was telling new members of the Blog Bloc, like the content of the events is amazing. And like, that is what you pay for. You get so much value beyond what you pay for, and it's awesome. That said, the untapped resource is being a part of this community and having access to be able to connect with other people and see if there's a way that you can work together. So I had a few strategic partnerships in which I was helping people organize, but also we were discussing discounted rates based on social media needs. So essentially I'm acting as like my own influencer campaign, but like for one specific person to say, okay, if we like, let's discuss rates, let's discuss what type of promotion that is, whether it's Instagram, are we adding on stories, is there a blog post involved, and then being able to take that content and promote it, you know, myself. So yeah, there were collaborations. I did one with the founder and we did this like beautiful pantry organization project. There was a designer in the group that we did another, like these are basically my two favorite pantry jobs ever. I did another pantry job with one of the influencers, like, and, you know, talking to people about next year doing, you know, photography and like all these other aspects that you can like, it's kind of untapped, like the collaboration possibilities are endless. So just thinking about it in a strategic way to get yourself out there on social media more so that you're able to stay fresh in the heads of the people in your community who are going to be wanting your services later.
Okay, so working with those two people, can you give us an example of like what came out of that in terms of what they shared on their social media about you, like pictures, blog posts? Like, explain it like we're 5 years old and we don't know anything about this. Like, tell us like what they did for you, and then also what was the, you know, long-term result in terms of bringing new business in for you as a result of those collaborations.
Well, in the very, very most basic of terms, I would say tapping into the feeling that people get when they see something on social media that someone else has. I call it social media jealousy. I know that that's like not a good term at all, but tapping into the feeling when you see someone, like if someone else was on vacation and you saw that they were at a specific resort and it looked amazing, and you say to your partner, like, I want to go on vacation and I want to go to that resort in Mexico because I saw so-and-so there and it looked beautiful. And there were all these beautiful places that you can photograph and the beach was amazing. And there's like the food looked amazing. I want that. Tapping into like taking that specific feeling and bringing it to your own life is what social media marketing is all about. So the collaboration that I did with a designer, she was doing basically like she renovated a room in she did her kitchen, and she and I were collaborating on just the pantry portion. And the whole thing was just so beautiful. But now it's been over a year and I have a consult coming up with someone who's like, hey, I saw you because of so-and-so. You know, I mean, the referrals can kind of last a long time because people are seeing your work on their blogs or their social media, or they're like, hey, who did you work with for this? And they're like, oh, you're going to want to talk to XYZ. Like the referrals still come in, and a lot of it isn't immediate. A lot of it is kind of like you're in it for the long game at that point. But a lot of that content that lives out there it's evergreen. So people can still find it on Pinterest. People could still find it if they're scrolling in social media. You could still take that content and do like a throwback Thursday the next year or a couple months down the line or whatever you want, and still pop it up. And then, you can also put who you've worked with and the brands that you've worked with on your own website too, and have a click through to those specific examples.
Okay, that is awesome. Can you share from your experience in working with the group as a whole, and also like with your personal experiences with collaborations, for a professional organizer who is thinking, okay, how can I apply this to my business in my local area? How big of a following do you think that a designer or like a lifestyle blogger that, is popular locally, like how many people do they need to have following them, or how big of a reach do they need to have for you to consider it like worth it to you to do discounted work or potentially even free work for them in order to get that exposure?
That is an excellent question. I think that you want to look, I know likes are going away on Instagram, so that's not really something that you can necessarily gauge, but you do want to look at the engagement of the different bloggers and what they're bringing to the table with their own audience. So I am not it's like different following numbers are going to have different rates, right? So if somebody's following is 5,000 versus 40,000, the rate of discount that you would be willing to give them is going to be different. You'd also just want to like go into their social media and see how engaged they are. Do they have a bunch of comments, but they never reply to any of the comments? That's showing how much they're touching base with their own audience. I also like to look at stories because not everybody does them, but people who are really engaged with their own audience will, because it's a way that they can touch base with people on a more frequent basis in like a more intimate way, because you can like ask questions on stickers and get responses and reply to those responses and all of these different things. So I would kind of see what that looks like. A designer that I worked with, she has a good following, and I know it was, even less a year ago, but her whole thing is that she's hyper engaged with her audience. There are, like, she's on stories every single day, and she's like talking to people every single day, and she's like, the audience that she's built is so hyper interactive with her that it's a really good audience to tap into, versus someone who might have a larger following but they don't really interact with people on a more personal basis. So those are just things that you'd want to look at. And then if you're thinking about like rates, I would you can even just ask them like, hey, what do you charge for XYZ? And once you've talked to a few people, you'll kind of get an idea of what is too much, what's too little. If you want to, there are articles out there about what you can be expecting as far as fees for influencers of different sizes too.
Do you have any particular resources that you can think of that you would recommend like people going to for that, for like getting those numbers and getting those like ballpark estimates?
There are different publications specifically for the influencing community. Like I think I'll look up a couple so you can have it in your show notes, because I know that I'm going to quote it and then I'm going to botch it. But I'll give you a couple that you can link to in the show notes.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Because I know some people are going to want to follow up on that. So from here, what would you, if someone was thinking about this and they're like, okay, Carly's awesome. She went and did this, but she had all these like, natural connections because of this blog group that she was with. Like, how does somebody go from like, they have no connections with local influencers? Like, how would they start that like outreach or that process for the first time? Like, how can you help them like get over that anxiety of like, can I actually just email this person? Like, what would you recommend as the way to approach them best?
I would start with people that you are naturally drawn to and the people that you are already following. A lot of people, there's already someone in your community who's a blogger. She's on Instagram a lot. You love her feed. Maybe they are a designer or a small business owner and you love all the work that they're doing. Start with that person that you are naturally already following with, and just interact with them more on comments, reply to their stories, and then you can reach out on DM and just say like, hey, I was thinking about this. Is there any chance that you would be interested in collaborating? And at that point, you've already built this online relationship with them. So it's not just like a cold call. It's more of somebody that, they probably already know who you are. They've seen that you like and comment on their stuff, and you're already kind of in the door a little bit. Another thing to remember is that I know we talk about it a lot too, but if someone doesn't say no, it is basically a maybe. So just kind of keep circling back and see what's up. If they say no, it's a no. But if they don't say anything, it could be a not right now. So I would say keep following up. And then also note that when you are pitching yourself, you are going to get a lot of rejection. Not everyone is going to want to partner with you. Either right now or in the future. That's just not really a direction that they want to take, and that's fine too. You won't be the right fit for everybody, but you will be the right fit for somebody. And so I would just say keep going for it, but know that a rejection doesn't mean that that's not an avenue that you can still try. It just means take a slightly different route.
What are some ideas for types of influencers that people may not have thought of already that might be potential partnerships? For example, I know that like interior designers are a great like natural fit. I know we've shared on a podcast episode before about if you don't even know who bloggers are in your area, you can search for your city and then like lifestyle bloggers or like home decor bloggers. Because often there are people, like you said, who no, they're not like nationally well known, but they're very well known locally, and they have a very hyper engaged local following that could be a great fit. And like you said, they don't have to have 1 million followers for it to be really, really profitable use of time for you to partner up with them. Okay, so we're talking about interior designers, lifestyle bloggers, like, I would say like the mom bloggers, like those would be really excellent. And I've seen that on Instagram a lot where, they'll share content about their playrooms and their pantry and their meal prep and stuff like that, that I think would be an amazing way to bring together your expertise and reach their audience. Okay, so what are some things that I'm not thinking of that maybe you've seen done during your time working with influencer marketing?
I was going to say the biggest one I was going to say is mommy bloggers. I think that they're really, tapped into what's local. They're going to tap into vendors that they love, and they're going to be alerting other people to that. So that's a really, really huge one. And then I would just say in like the vein of lifestyle blogging, see, if there's like a local morning show that they regularly have like fun segments on or whatever, watch that show, see who's on it, tap into those type of people, because the people who are going to be in those morning segments are going to be the type of people who are putting themselves out there in their businesses and in their brands. And I would say that's my biggest thing so far. You could also think about tapping into, I think the parenthood thing is big, unless that's not your niche. Because for a lot of us, like I work with a lot of moms, that's a great niche for me. But if your niche is more, helping seniors relocate, then maybe you're going to be wanting to reach out to the different senior communities in your area. And maybe you're not focusing so much on bloggers because your potential clients might not really be taking that route when they're getting their information on who to go with. So, I mean, I guess it's just all niche specific, but my focus is more on like I would say like a 30 to 45-year-old woman, a lot of moms, a lot of entrepreneurs. And so I'm thinking about where are they in their spare time? And that's really going to be, I mean, I know you say this too, like think about who your ideal client is and where she lives, and like lives as in, where does she visit? Where is she online? What is she up to?
That's so good. And I just thought too, like for anybody who's really focused on, offices, paperwork, like that kind of thing. I know that might seem like the unglamorous side of organizing, but when you just said like all local entrepreneurs, everybody needs help with that. Like that is something that, that does match up as like a natural kind of partnership or collaboration that, people want to share with their audiences, a little bit of like, hey, here's behind the scenes and this organizer who's been, helping me so much with my business and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of creative ideas that people will be having as they're listening to this episode that we didn't even touch on. So please share those with each other, guys.
And you can even think of like, say there's a local store that's really popular that you feel that you could bring value to. Maybe, maybe you're thinking about, and like, the stores that are like really cute, but they're also online a lot. Maybe you're partnering with them in some way. You're organizing a corner of that store that they're broadcasting to their audience, and the people who visit that store are your ideal client. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can go. I know that someone in the group too was like partnering with a local company that had just built some homes, and they like staged a pantry, just thinking about different ways that you can kind of creatively get in front of other people's audiences.
It's really awesome. Are you loving the Pro Organizer Studio podcast? I know that's a mouthful, so we call it T-Pop for short. Help us reach new listeners and bring in even more amazing guests by leaving a review for T-Pop through your podcasting app. It truly makes our day to know that you are listening. Okay, so Carly, what, going back to your own, what you share on your social media, let me just ask this. When you have gotten exposure through these partnerships, does it tend to bring you a lot of followers, or is it just more like traffic to your website and just direct inquiries to you? Just curious about that one.
No, that's a good question. I would say my following still isn't, huge. I'm still under 1,500 on Instagram. So I would say that the value really is more on the one-on-one connections and bringing those direct referrals to me. I would say that there are, there's some more followers for sure. And anytime something comes out, I'm going to get a few more, but it's not, my focus hasn't been to have like, 25,000 people on Instagram this year or anything like that. And I haven't worried too much about it either, which has been good for me. But yeah, I would say it's more direct inquiries, and it's more about staying top of mind. And I'm really trying to play the long game and not worry so much about the immediate numbers coming in.
I love that. Okay, so now if you're willing to share, since you did just recently go full-time in your business, and that is so awesome, that's such an amazing step, and it is a brand new year, what are your goals for social media in 2020?
My goals for social media in 2020 are really all about consistency, and basically it's consistency in social media posting and content. It's consistency in my newsletter and blogging and creating new like downloadable content, like monthly gifts for my newsletter readers. So basically everything is just kind of driving back to the website. So social media is like the beginning that draws people to the newsletter, and then the newsletter, everything like just funnels back to the website. But I would say this year is going to be all about consistency, because I want to have monthly gifts for my newsletter readers. And then when people join the newsletter, they get whatever that monthly downloadable gift is then. And then, then they'll just keep getting them when they're on the list.
I can imagine that one of the biggest benefits of having worked with, content creators over the last year is kind of soaking up that feeling of being consistent, because you see them doing it, they take it seriously. It's a very important part of their job and their business. And so for you now, it's like the next natural step is like, okay, I'm going to continue this on in my, business plan for Tidy Revival. And, it's just a part of my life as an entrepreneur, not like this big new thing that you're now just trying to start. I think that's an amazing takeaway from what you've shared.
Oh yeah.
You're such like a great, you're like a great role model for, doable strategic steps and just like staying the course. So thank you for sharing everything that you have brought to the table today. I mean, you're knowledgeable on so many subjects. I'm so excited for your business and everything that you're going to do this year. I know that you're ready, you're totally ready for that next level, and you've been preparing for it. So you're going to do amazing things.
Thank you,
can you
Jen.
please tell everybody where they can find you online so that they can follow you on Instagram and check out your website and all that stuff?
Sure. My website is tidyrevival.com, and on Instagram and Facebook, I'm at Tidy Revival. And come join me. Sign up for the newsletter. Get my monthly downloads.
That's amazing. And I'm so excited for what you're going to do with that too. I think that's really, really incredible.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you having me again. It's been awesome.
Absolutely, Carly. You are such a treasure.
Oh,
Talk to you soon.
Jen. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Pro Organizer Studio podcast. If you'd like to learn more about time-saving services and resources for professional organizers, visit www.proorganizerstudio.com. And if you'd like to get Jen's roadmap to success for launching and growing your professional organizing business, go straight to www.poroadmap.com.